Hello and welcome to Get Great at Maths. Today's video we've got a video to do with GCSE Mathematics OCR J560 exam paper, and we're going to be looking at the June 2022 series for higher tier paper 4, and it's a calculated paper, and we're going to be looking at question 8. Now question 8 is a question to do with quadratic graphs. And on this question, we're told that the table of values for y equals x squared plus 2x minus 2 is given below. Now, it's very unusual that all the values are filled in on the table. Normally, part A is fill in some of the missing gaps. But here, all you've got to do is plot the values. Or in this case, it says draw the graph, which basically means plot the values, and you get 3 marks for doing this. So it's quite an easy 3 marks to start with. So the first coordinate you're going to be plotting is the coordinate -4, 6. So that means you go along the corridor and up the stairs. So you go along 4 in the x-axis. Remember, that's the horizontal one, so along. And then you go up in the y afterwards. So I go 4 along in the x-axis, 6 up in the y-axis, which takes me to my first point here. The second point I'm going to plot is the point -3, 1. So again, I go 3 to the left from the origin, or the point 0, 0, and then 1 up. Next point is the point -2, -2, and we plot each one in turn. And then I've got the point -1, -3, and then I've got the point 0, -2, and then the point 1, 1, and then the point 2, 6. Okay, so I've plotted all the points. Now to draw the graph, I have to draw a curve between all these points, so it's a nice smooth curve to complete the graph. Now this was worth 3 marks. So in the exam, you get a mark for doing the curve. You get 2 marks for plotting 6 or 7 of the points accurately, and 1 mark for plotting 4 or 5, and the last mark is for drawing the smooth curve. Quite an easy 3 marks to start with on this question. You do get a tolerance of a half a square to start with, so you can be a little bit out on each of the squares, but please be as accurate as you can when you're plotting this graph. If you notice, we have got a squared graph here, which is a quadratic. So the word quadratic in the question here means squared, and this quadratic means that we have got a curved, or in this case, a happy smiley face, because it is a quadratic graph. Now part B, we've got to write down the line of symmetry of the graph. The line of symmetry is where it's symmetrical about. So you can see clearly I've drawn the line down the middle, which is where it's symmetrical about. The tricky part here comes in writing its equation. So this is the x-axis, and this is where the x-axis is always equal to -1. So any point on this line here that's been drawn, x is equal to -1, and that's all you need for the mark. The mark scheme just says x equals -1 or equivalent, which means x plus 1 equals 0 would be an equivalent line, but most people would write x equals -1. So there's your mark for that. Part C, we've got to use this graph, x squared plus 2x minus 2 equal to 0. Now in part A, we had to draw the graph of x squared plus 2x minus 2, so that's the red curve we can still see. Now when that equals 0, what that is saying is where are you going to cross the x-axis, because this curve that we were given here was equal to y originally. So this was y equals x squared plus 2x minus 2. So this part here is when y is also equal to 0. Now the line y equals 0 is the x-axis, so it's this horizontal line coming across here. And we want to know the point where the curve and the horizontal line meet each other, and we've got to work out the solution. So the answer tells us it's going to be x values. So all I've got to do is work out the x value at this point here where they cross, and the point over here where they're going to cross. And you've just got to read off from your graph the 2 values. So when I read across, I get -2.8 for the first value that I highlighted, and 0.8 for the other value. Now this tells us on the mark scheme that my answer could be between -2.8 and -2.7, or 0.7 and 0.8. So there is a little bit of leeway, and there is 1 mark for each of those values that you gave correctly. If you like this video, please click like and subscribe. This is a video for Get Great at Maths. Thanks for listening.